Welcome back, everybody, to Heal Yourself Naturally, brought to you by IPAC. My name is Nicole Dromi. I'm joined by Kava Levy and Sarah Witzkender. We were just talking right before we logged on and how out of sorts we all are. The weather's doing funny things to our brains, so excuse that little blimp. Anyways, very excited for today's topic. We're going to be wrapping up our women's health three series class or podcast rather with the topic of menopause. All of us go through it at some point in our life, and so we want to be here for you when those symptoms come on and teach you how to navigate and go through this a little bit smoother because it is a bit rough. Everybody's symptoms come on differently, but we all women eventually share similar symptoms. Let's get right to it. So some of the major symptoms that we go through while we're exhibiting signs of menopause are one of the biggest one is hot flashes, right? That's the one that you hear the most of. I'm so hot. All of a sudden, I'm like boiling. I've seen my mom just like strip everything off, freaking out, like I'm hot, I'm hot. What can we do for hot flashes? That's like number one, except for getting naked because you can't just get naked in public. Like, how do you manage it? I know a lot of women would love that though. How can we manage it or, kind of subdue those symptoms so that we can live a normal life? Because going through life with random hot flashes is not fun, right? It happens in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. You feel like you can't breathe, you're so hot. Sarah, what do you tell your clients that come in and are like, I have major hot flashes?
Well, I
What
find
do
that
you do?
hot flashes are one of the hardest things to resolve, I've got to tell you.
Right.
Um, and so I would always ask a series of questions in regards to, when does it happen? We talk about diet. So, things that can really exacerbate hot flashes. So this is clearly part of how I would address it. Um, things that exacerbate hot flashes are alcohol, anything that's very warming, intense, you know, emotions. So stress tends to really set people off. Um, and crappy food. If you're not eating well, you're not really supporting your body. That can affect your severity of hot flashes and other symptoms. But I would say, as far as besides cold dunks in the ocean, and fans while you're sleeping, the herbs that I particularly like are chaste tree berry, which is also used for, we talked about that last time, for basic PMS, for low progesterone or estrogen dominance, one or the other. So chaste tree berry, I would be putting in tea or tincture. Tinctures, though, are alcohol and they can be warming. So that's kind of one of those things you just have to assess on a case by case basis. And some women do fine with extracts, and it doesn't exacerbate your hot flashes. But if you're having that extra glass of wine at night, with your tinctures, you got to think about that. But I also like black cohosh is often used for hot flashes, and you can combine these two. I tend not to give people black cohosh by itself because more is not better with black cohosh and it can cause headaches. So that's insult to injury. Uh, so Chase Street Berry and Black Cohosh are probably ones that I can think of at the top of my head. And my absolute favorite for any menopausal woman is wild yam. That has to be and that's the only one I use. And that essentially keeps the symptoms at bay for me. So those three herbs, I would say, would address the underlying issues of hot flashes, barring, dietary tweaks, stress management.
And we spoke last week, like you said, about chaste tree berry and how it can help with hormone balance. So that's something that if you're exhibiting signs of menopause, you should just start drinking that, regardless of the symptoms that you're getting, right? So I just wanted to reiterate that to our
Yeah.
to people who are listening in, so that if that's something that you are starting to see and you're exhibiting signs, rather than rush to a doctor and get something to balance your hormones, you can try it on your own with adding that tea into your daily regimen. Hava, what would you suggest? I saw you nodding, nodding to some of the herbs. Is there another herb in particular that you favor for symptoms of hot flashes?
Well, I was nudging because there's a couple of herbs that are absolutely I agree with them, and and I use them myself. And wild yam, obviously, they're my favorite as well, and as well as the black kahash, and it's wonderful. And also ginseng is very good, to reduce the hot flashes. And I also and there is also I create this hormonal balancer formula that made out of a black cohosh, sarsaparilla, and raspberry licorice. And then also I add comfrey and wild yam. Now many might say, why the hell you add comfrey? But I do feel that many are malnourished as well. And even though people say it's not good, I mean, I do have absolute amazing results by using comfrey internally as well, and especially for the women who are very hormonal and having sweating issues and stuff like that. I also, besides that, I also want to look an overall picture. Like Sarah said, like it's not, this is just a side effect of a much bigger problem. So usually you want to look at the bigger picture. You want to see what is going on. Maybe she's not, she's holding too much toxins in. And maybe, she's not hydrated enough. Many things can go into it, right? And then also you want to see if she was on some sort of a pills or some sort of a drugs that cause this. This is, see, the way we work through figuring out why there is a problem and not just like giving solution right away. Because I found if you have a problem and then you just like, oh, I have a, just give me something for hot flashes, we didn't do nothing, because we treat the problem, but then it will come up in the other area. So you always want to go to the main root of the problem and you want to see why. And then hot flashes, headaches, hair thinning, all those stuff are playing part. So
Right.
even if we suggest now, okay, so take for this specific problem, use this and that. But maybe at night or before she goes to sleep, she wraps herself in a lotion that is full of hormonal disturbers. So yeah, so she's taking something very good internally, but then rubbing all this garbage on her skin, that makes her skin shiny like Victoria's Secret and all this stuff. And she dresses up in clothes that are so sexy, and then she comes to the bed, and then she's taking this wild yum by the mouth, and then she takes it in, and then what you end up? Angry, exhausted, and then you
Hot.
tear your hair hot, and then you start
Slippery.
throwing everything. And so that's
Right.
the whole idea. You want to
Right.
look always at the big entire picture. But yes, obviously, as Sarah mentioned, I mean, this is absolutely incredible herbs to use it. And yes, do not jump into the chemical medications. And I usually the best way is to tell people, why do you need in your body a horse urine? And then people tell me, what do you mean? I'm like, that's exactly what
That's
it
what you're
is.
taking.
That's what you're taking. You see this yellow peel or whatever
Mhm.
you're having in your mouth, just dilute in the water and smell it. That's a horse pee in there. Enjoy for a good life. And like people like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's exactly what I mean. You're drinking a horse pee. And people like, I never thought about that, but that's the reality. So
Yeah.
don't
Right.
jump into right away into the garbage, and let's go to
Don't
the
drink
best
horse
food.
piss. Just
Yeah,
let's
don't.
get down to business. Well, that's something that we talk a lot about on the show. People, our viewers, society, whatever, they take care of the issue or the symptom that arises without thinking, how did I get here? Right? It's just, oh, it's normal. Well, quite frankly, it's not normal. Some of these extreme symptoms that women feel during menopause shouldn't be felt if they led a healthy life prior to getting to that age, right? So let's talk to our viewers who are not even close to the age of menopause. You're not there yet. What are some things you can avoid in order to be able to know that you won't get those heavy symptoms of menopause, right? So birth control, we want to avoid that. We're messing with our hormones. So once we get older, our hormones will be more affected because they're never balanced because of this birth control. They're never normal in a sense, right? And we talk a lot about releasing toxins from our body. What are some ways? I know we've spoken about it many times, but I just want to reiterate for whoever's just listening, let's say to this podcast, what are some ways we can detox our body and like live a healthy life while we're detoxing? What are some of the things you would tell people to avoid completely? Ways to release toxins from the body, Sarah? What are some of your tips?
Well, to head off any kind of major symptoms of menopause, if you've had a lot of PMS, you're probably going to have menopausal symptoms. So I would be addressing, that problem, which is hormone balancing. So one in particular in regards to opening the channels of detoxification in the body would be eating good food, eating lots of good fruits and vegetables, supporting the blood, supporting the liver. So your green leafy vegetables, your herbs like burdock root, dandelion root, nettles, dandelion leaf, schizandra berry. So supporting those organs of elimination are super important to detox, and it's not that hard. I don't like really suggest like detoxes for people necessarily for, if you're not dealing with some kind of specific heavy metal poisoning. So you could just simply do it by eating well and then introducing some very simple herbs into your life. Like I said, the burdock, dandelion, really simple calendula. So that's how I would support detox. But as far as like PMS and hormone balancing, you really want to be mindful about the sugar you intake. Sugar is a major metabolic disruptor, and it's not just the endocrine disruptors in our environment, the chemicals that can do it, right? The plastics, the pesticides, all those. And so I would be really suggesting people avoid the sugar, avoid the crappy, packaged foods, and eating clean, whole foods. And so, that's a main thing because sugar causes insulin resistance eventually, or it doesn't have to, but it can. And I find that people who have surpassed, gone through menopause, they're way past it. They have type 2 diabetes and they're still flashing. So there's literally a connection between the
Sugar.
insulin resistance, hormone,
Mm.
metabolic issues and disorders like type 2 diabetes and the hot flashes. So I would be addressing sugar metabolism by not eating that poison, getting it out of your life. So no refined sugars. And then the third thing, and this is important for detox as well, not eating sugar, but also stress management. Because when your stress response, it's the hyper fight or flight, that's going to create a hot flash. And it happens all the time. I see it with women that I know that are in menopause and they get excited and then all of a sudden there's hot flash. It's just like clockwork. So really supporting that hyper fight or flight response, which is, easy to do with, not easy, but it's doable with herbs. So then we're using those adaptogenic herbs that we've discussed many times in this podcast.
Right.
Things like, well, Hava mentioned ginseng. That's a wonderful adaptogen. It's a stimulating adaptogen. There's different types. And I mentioned Shazandra, that's another type of adaptogen, helping the body deal with the stress response. Shazandra tends to be cooling and calming. I love Shazandra for the menopausal woman. And then ashwagandha is another one. I won't name them all, but those are very, very good. So, detox, good food, all the things. Get the sugar out of your life, honestly. And then stress. Because if you have a healthy stress response, or if your adrenals aren't, you know, hyper responsive, you're probably not going to have a lot of menopausal symptoms in general.
Right.
And then we can add thyroid health to that whole extravaganza. But that's how I would approach it in a nutshell.
Mhm. What are some other methods, Kava? Like, so we covered detox a bit, right? Let's touch base again about cleaning your bowels, because that's something, okay, we regardless of if we try to or not, if we're eating out every once in a while, or if we have a high stress life and we're a little bit busy, or too busy to take care of our eating habits, we're accumulating toxins in our body. Let's talk about bowel movements and how to aid the body in releasing some of these toxins through the bowels. I just want to recap a little bit because it all ties in. If anybody's listened to our podcast before, we go back a lot onto the same things: eat well, remove toxicity from your bowels, clean your liver, clean your kidneys, and then everything should be functioning properly, right? So I just want to touch base on those, a few pointers, so that people can just brush up on it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I like that we're going back and forth all the time because
Right.
it is a very important topic that we don't think, and we really want to bring this parallel. We want to really bring this as a part of. I mean, I really want to teach people about these basics, and the bowels are important because they're the ones that are holding a lot of toxicity, and it is very crucial to make sure that you really monitor your bowels. And when we go through menopause, we do have a lot of problems, is as well as a premenopause, and the teenagers also. The same problem kind of goes back again when we are in the menopause, and most people it's kind of shuts down, and we don't move the bowels the way we should. It's very important and crucial to really always be aware that if you don't move your bowels, you'll see the symptoms will really come to the surface much quicker than you ever thought. This is how really it's connected. If you don't move 1 or 2 days, then on the third day you'll see a lot of stuff that will float, from headaches to dizziness. And then we not used to, as a part, we're not used to think about that. And then what happens is that then okay, so let me hop a Tylenol because now I have these migraines. Or let me take this because I have this hot flashes. See, it's really so much connected. So I agree with you that we really have to um, watch carefully about our bowel cycle. And
So what are some
cannot,
suggestions
and
to
so,
to
so for me, it's easy because I have a special herbal formula that I prepared. It's called Bowel Food Formula, and I usually suggest to take 2 capsules 2 times a day before a heavy meal, or sometimes people need 3 or 4 or 5, or even if they need, they can take up to 40, till I usually say till you're breaking loose, meaning till finally the garbage will start coming out and you will be able to move your bowels. And then many people are afraid because they think like, oh, so I'm gonna now dependent on it. No, none of those herbs are the herbs that you will be dependent, but those herbs are really help you, and they support your liver, and also they help you with restoring your good digestion. And so that's the way I usually would suggest and I would suggest to every woman when they go through such a symptoms through either from hot flashes to thinning of their hair and many other problems, sweating, and many
What's
other.
in your formula? Is it top secret?
No. It's on my website. No. It's not. It's on my website.
All ingredients are on the site
So
for
I
kava.
did ginger and fennel, and
Okay, yeah.
barberry, and so that's like a basic herbs that I've seen they work so nicely, and I found the fennel is wonderful to reducing the gas, and that's what many girls, I mean, many women are suffering, and then also I found them. Like raspberry also is in there to feed and nourish, so the raspberries works very nicely with almost everyone, and we malnourished, right? So raspberry is, I added into it. Ginger is wonderful, right? Ginger is wonderful. Cayenne is one of my favorite because it really sends all the herbs to do their job. So the combination of those herbs I really help to clean the mess outside, and almost every case, right, Sarah, this, but almost every case that we deal with is all about the stagnation. And once we pile up the stomach, then it spills to the liver, and from the liver to the kidneys. And what I found also is that also affects our moods, right? And then I also found that another problem that many people are suffering, so many women are suffering, are also a proper digestion, in a way, like they, when they eat, they don't digest, and they don't really process the food well, so they swell, they become bloated, and then they're angry, and they think it's something not okay. It's just also part of the, of a toxicity, I would say. And I've never thought that there is such a thing as like drinking wine that many women do. I mean, for me, drinking alcohol, it's not something like you do every single day, right? But what I learned is through looking around that there is so many women, they drink alcohol on a daily basis, meaning like for them it's like a fun drink, or there is like, oh, let's have a little bit wine. I never understood that, but that's really causing a lot of trouble, and it really reflects digestion, and obviously the liver, and from the liver goes through other, right? So alcohol consumption is very horrible, and I found that many women are really running to it, like it's like a part of their, I don't understand why, but
A type of unwinding, but everything in moderation, and also just in terms of food or any kind of you know extracurricular that you add into your lifestyle, you want to make sure that it's conducive for good health. And we
yeah,
want
I
to
mean,
make sure
obviously,
that we want to make sure that people that are listening, we do understand life is life, so you are gonna get thrown in these situations where you want to indulge and you want to have fun, but there's always supposed to be a balance. So if your normal is that you eat well all the time, and that your food is pesticide free, and you're not eating processed things, et cetera, then when you want to indulge in those things, that's not wrong. It's okay, right? We don't say no and never, because you can never say never. There's circumstances in which there's choices to be made, and if it's okay to make those choices, but how do you lead your overall life? How is it that you live? And so we want to drive the point home in telling our viewers that if you do stick to a certain rule book, right? Or if you transition your life into not eating this processed junk, and making your own meals, and buying products that are, produce and things that are organic and pesticide free, and you're drinking clean water, and you're exercising a little bit, and leading a less stressful life, cleaning your bowels, you are going to be healthy. So when menopause comes around, you're not going to be getting these symptoms that a lot of women have now. I remember speaking to my great grandmother not long ago. She's still alive and healthy and well, thank God. But yeah, and so my great grandmother was telling my mom, how come, like, I don't remember feeling like we didn't feel like this when we went through menopause. Like, this is some major symptoms, and it's because of all the toxins that we have in our body now our body is reacting in an alarmed way. The body is like freaking out. So you're getting a lot more of these symptoms that women 60 years ago did not go through, right? Not in a severe sense whatsoever.
Or
So we
our
have to
adrenals,
remind ourselves.
yeah, our
Yeah.
adrenals are in a very bad condition. And that's like it's because we live in such a stressful environment, you know.
So what are some good things for the adrenal glands? What are some herbs that can help with that, right? Because all of these symptoms do tie into your lymph nodes, like you said, Sarah, your, adrenal glands. What are some herbs, Kava? Like, give me one or two herbs that you like, and then I'd like to hear from Sarah. What are one or two herbs
Well,
for that?
by me, the adrenals are always iodine. Iodine is very important because iodine is the one that, as we mentioned last time, is the one that feeds your thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is the most important in your hormones. And
Right.
when the thyroid is exhausted and does not getting enough food, then we're getting in trouble. But which herbs are very good? So I usually suggest iodine, and I tell you, I've seen amazing cases that women from having ovaries, cyst on ovaries and on their breast and many other areas, all been treated by iodine, and there was amazing results. So I do suggest getting iodine. And or if you don't want to take it internally, it's like nascent iodine, which is like in a more cellular level, then you can always apply it on your skin, but then also eat through the food like kelp, right? All the seaweeds are absolutely incredible, and those stuff
Yeah.
we usually don't eat. Seaweeds, it's like consider something like maybe in a sushi roll, but in reality, it's something that we do need to consume, and obviously you want to make sure that you consume in a high quality because the other ones might contain parasites and stuff like that. But look into the kelp very much, right? Iodine kelp is absolutely incredible. And when you provide your thyroid what it needs, and then obviously it comes to the sleep and many other things that are important. And
Right.
also, I also like to say like why adrenals are why you're so exhausted. It's either because you're not happy with your life, and I don't want to now take it to the other to go off the freeway, but I
No,
found
we'll
that
talk about that in a second. I want to talk
right,
about that. I just want to hear
right.
from Sarah in terms of
So
herbs. Sorry to cut you off.
I would suggest
You
iodine and
iodine.
Sarah.
I
Yeah, now
agree.
Saturday.
Sarah, what's an herb? Because I want to get into the spiritual sense. I
Right.
like how we're going everywhere because healing is, and mind, body, soul connection, and we've said that many times. But what are some herbs,
Well,
Sarah?
so the ones that I had mentioned before, the ashwagandha, schizandra, really help with that hyper fight or flight. So that's the adrenal functions. Just so people
Right.
understand, your adrenals are these endocrine organs that sit atop the kidneys, and they are in charge of your fight or flight or freeze response. So you see the stress, you react to the stress, and then your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, has a charge on this and is affected as well. And then, after a time, the stress response dies down. But what these adaptogens will do is help with that reaction. So you're not going to react. So Shazandra, ashwagandha, um, Hava had mentioned ginseng. These are adaptogens, things like holy basil. I would stick to more calming adaptogens. So that's Shazandra, ashwagandha, and holy basil. I would also be introducing a hemp product. So I love cannabis for this. And it's not the THC kind. You don't have to get high to be less stressed out, although that does help sometimes. And, I'm not here to judge, but
Well,
it's
you're our
just
mushroom queen, so we're not judging you.
okay. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mushrooms come in nicely as well, but reishi is an adaptogen. But cannabis, a nice full spectrum hemp, fully whole plant hemp tincture, not the oil. I have a nice flower that I use, the cannabis flower. It happens to be a strain that's high in CBD. It has all the other CBG, CBDs, CBAs, all the other ones in there. no THC or very, very small amount. And I tincture that pretty strongly. And it helps women, it helps everybody. But I take it every day. I have found that it really helps quell, just it keeps you at a more moderate level, right? It keeps you from having these wild swings during the day. And it actually helps with more restful sleep. So we haven't talked about sleep yet.
I was just about to ask about that because,
So,
yeah,
because sleep is a huge issue for menopausal women, and I can tell you just
right.
a story from myself is that right before a hot flash, I feel like I forgot I left the water on or the iron is burning the house down. Like it is that a reaction like that, and then I get a hot flash. So there is a nervous system function going on here, adrenal nervous system. You just get all like, oh my God, the house is burning, and then you get a hot flash and go, oh, okay, so that's what happens when I get a hot flash. And cannabis just helps calm that whole thing right down for the most
Right.
part. Managing menopausal symptoms, it can ebb and flow, right? Just like with your
Right.
hormones. So it's not always a cookie cutter thing, but we try to be consistent. So those are my favorite plants for helping that whole fight or flight response, which does exacerbate
What
menopause.
about the thyroid?
Oh, well, I love iodine for thyroid, but not for someone who has Hashimoto's. So I love to eat the seaweed as opposed to taking the iodine, which you can put that in soups and different things. And there's a whole lot of different seaweeds that you can use and sprinkle on stuff. Um, I love nettles for the thyroid,
Hmm.
and what else do I like for thyroid? There's a lot of really nice herbs. Blue flag iris is really nice at detoxifying the thyroid and balancing. Um, and those are my go-tos right there. But
Love it. Yeah.
meditation and stress response, because what happens is that your thyroid is kind of part of that process to control things after the stress response. So the thyroid can get tired using up all those iodine-like molecules. So it's really good to obviously support the thyroid, and you can do it in multiple different ways. So, and of course, the adaptogens are going to help you with the thyroid as well. So,
I love those answers, both of you. Let's talk about sleep because insomnia or early waking um, tend to be very big symptoms of menopause, and it doesn't help when you're stressed out and you can't sleep and you getting hot flashes. What's a couple of your favorite herbs or things or even routines, nightly routines, Kava, that you would suggest for someone who's going through menopause who has terrible time sleeping?
Well, there is many wonderful herbs, but the I usually suggest this the blend of passion flower is very good, is very calming, and passion flower is very good also when you like um how I would say like overthink. So it really helps to calm your mind down. Chamomile is very good. Lemon balm, tulsi, all those are very, very good. And I found they work very nicely. I just had a case like a couple days ago of someone who is not sleeping. She's not premenopause, or maybe she is. I don't think yet. But sometimes I also we look at okay, I'm going to take you to a different angle. We look at the sleep and we like expect go to bed and just fall asleep, but many times I found that or either people are too tired or people are not tired at all because they didn't do shit. And what and in a way is that, and you might say, how's that possible? Well, I tell you that many people are sitting in their homes and they're just mind thinking, but the body is not working, and they're like, or can be an opposite, just the body working, but the mind is not working. Is like, so I found that sometimes I always want to see what did you do through the day that you're having hard time to fall asleep, right? And many times I found people tell me, I didn't do nothing. That's a big problem. Because if you really didn't do something with your body, if you didn't, like, I always look at this and, we're trying to create this problem, but in reality, I found, like, if you take, let's say, a regular worker who now climbs up on the roof and he's working physically hard, and also he thinks because, and then he comes, he has a good meal, he goes to shower, he goes to sleep. There's no such thing like, oh, maybe I'm not gonna sleep now. Like, the body is exhausted, and and the brain thinks like, we've done what we're supposed to do and we're ready to go to sleep. I feel like when there is a something like is not aligned correctly, we have a problem going to sleep, and what happens by us as a woman, we either exercise like crazy, and then when there is a time to go to sleep, we don't go to sleep. We push it. Then the new energy comes in, and then you expect to go to sleep. And that's a big problem. And that's many people what they do. And I always say, what time did you feel the most? Oh, it was like around 9, 10. So that was the time you were supposed to go to sleep. But nobody going to do that.
So
Most people,
monitoring your routine,
I would
monitoring
say,
daily
monitor
routine.
routine and find out what you do through the day, that you are not, because in reality, in the real life, we need to be tired. When if we done what we're supposed to do through our day, we come taking a good hot shower, drinking some nice herbal tea with lemon balm or tulsi, or a combination of skull cap chamomile. We take obviously magnesium for some, and usually women are lacking magnesium because we're lacking minerals, right? But the idea is that then we go under hot shower, obviously filtered water, and then we go to sleep, and then we should just go to sleep if we are happy. But once we feel that we are not in the right place, or there was imbalance, we're going to have a hard time falling asleep. I don't know, that's how I
Yeah.
feel.
No, I think that's great. So don't overly do it. Try to listen to your body. If it's giving you signs, don't push your bedtime because then you get this new wave of energy. Try to do
Many
something.
times I see
If
this
you're
woman.
extremely physical during the day and you haven't exercised your brain, so there's some, you can even get like a Sudoku book or whatever. Like try to do something to work your brain a little bit, some of that brain power, and you're likely to go to sleep with those additional herbs. That's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah, because I had a couple cases, but there was a one specific one that the woman couldn't sleep almost, and she was menopausal, and I would take her on a hike, and we would do different things, and but through the day she didn't use her brain, like she didn't do nothing. She just was like a fancy like queen, was not doing anything. So I would take her up into the mountains, try to speak with her, and then she would come home and like not do anything, and then watching all her movies through the whole day. And then at night she's not tired, and she does, or maybe she's tired but too exhausted, and there is a imbalance. Something. And so by the end, she was supposed to go to the special place to really give her some medicine to really break this vicious cycle. But it was a menopausal woman, and that's what I'm trying. Like that's why I also want to bring awareness, because some people think it's like it's always is only hormones, but in reality, that's also our daily life that can affect that. I don't know. That's how.
Right. Any additional tips, Sarah? Like some additional herbs? I know she mentioned a lot of them, Kava. So anything else that you might add in addition to what you said?
As far as like hypnotics and what I would suggest, well, first I would really love to get people off their sleeping medications. I think things
Right.
like Ambien are scary, because they are screwing around with neurotransmitters and they really don't have any idea what they're doing with these drugs. In my opinion, I'm sure there's clinical
I
trials that say
agree.
it's completely fine, but
Right.
I like California poppy.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one that I've used that works for most people. I love, like Mahava mentioned, skullcap. I love skullcap. I love valerian. Valerian is another, it's a root that works
Mhm.
really well for most people. Although for like a very small percentage of people, it's a stimulant. So there's that. But for most people, it's not. And cannabis and the hemp, or if you want to do THC at night, a lot of people do the gummies and stuff, which I don't particularly think that's, I mean, I think it's fine, but you don't have to get high. Like my mom, I don't understand this, and she probably will never listen to this podcast. So she's like my teacher, she's
That's
like the one that I
Bash.
used as the like example for all my classes and what not to do. So it's like, so um she just gets these gummies from another person, and of course I do this stuff. I don't do THC stuff, but she goes right for the gummies because everybody says it's good and everybody says it works, and now the government is letting people do this, so then it must be okay. Whereas cannabis is just another plant that we've always had as herbalists, and now we're just freer to use it because for obvious reasons.
We're
And
capitalizing.
what was that?
It's being capitalized.
Yeah. And so she'll do a gummy. I'm like, why do you want to get high? You have never done any of this stuff ever. You've never gotten high in your life, but now because you have sleeping problems, you think you have to have the THC. You don't have to use the THC. A good quality, like take a nice quality, like the extracts that I make, or I have a resin that I use, spread it on a cookie, or put it on a cracker and just eat it. And it really does calm the whole body. So cannabis, California poppy, I love the idea of having a routine at night. If you're really having trouble sleeping, stop scrolling on your phone, put your electronics away, get a good book, get a nice little aromatherapy lavender candle or a diffuser with some nice essential oils. Lavender is my favorite, but it doesn't have to be lavender. There's a lot of really nice calming essential oils. Get a blend, whatever. Have a routine, dim the lights, spray your sheets down with a lavender spray. Take a nice hot bath before you go to bed. I mean,
Right.
get a routine, get the electronics out of your life, finish up any unfinished business. Okay. Whether it's if you and your husband got in a fight or whatever, and just say, I have to go to bed, let's talk about this in the morning, but resolve anything. Because if there's one thing that and I experience it, but I know other people do, is that you sit and you can't sleep and you ruminate about shit the whole time you're trying to sleep. And it's this circular thinking. It's like, what did I forget? Oh my God, did I really say that? What do the kids have to do tomorrow? Oh my God, I forgot to take out the garbage. It's like all this stuff. Finish your business before you go to bed.
Right.
And then you can go to bed and not have to worry about anything. Although sometimes you worry about things you don't have to worry about. That's that whole circular thinking. My favorite herb for that is the blue vervain.
Mhm.
You know, Blue vervain is Verbena hastata. It grows around here. I use it all the time. It tastes like crap. So, it's not awesome in tea. So it's not like, Hava, you mentioned lemon balm and chamomile, lovely right before bed, but they taste good. You know what? You're not going to cozy up to a nice cup of blue vervain tea because you're going to be like, why do you hate me, Sarah? Why do you hate me?
So capsules would be great,
Capsules
right?
or even like a tincture, just like a dropper full and some, I love the warm water idea or a juice or something. Probably water's best. And then start with one dropper before you go to bed and see how you do. That's about 30 drops for people who not sure how much one dropper is, 30 drops. And then really don't just try to get off your drugs. Those things are not serving you. And that includes, menopausal hormone replacement therapies too, which, don't serve you. But so that's what I would do for sleep.
Right. And
You
then
know,
if
one
those,
thing,
uh-huh.
I'm sorry, Nicole. There's one story of one lady. She was obviously menopausal and she couldn't fall asleep. And then we went over her history. And then I'm like, I asked, "What's in your room? Like, how's your room is set?" And there was a huge clock right in front of her bed, right? And she would like, and she couldn't fall asleep, and she had a hard time for. So I said, like, maybe the watch that right in front of your, it's like it stimulates you because you need to wake up and you know stuff to do. So I want to also mention that. So as soon I told her to just move it to different room, don't even have the watch in your room. It was absolute miracle. So that's nothing helped, but just simple thing that was in the room that she would watch all the time and look, oh, this is the time is passing. Remove this piece out, the equipment from your bedroom, and you'll see amazing results. So yeah, that I wanted to mention.
Something in your subconscious that doesn't let you go to sleep because of that,
Yeah.
the
That was
constant, like you were saying.
story, a funny story to remember.
Yeah,
So also some people, not just women, I mean, they don't have trouble falling asleep and then all of a sudden they wake up in the middle of the night. They have trouble falling back asleep. A lot of the times I've seen that most of the reason is, okay, I'm awake. Let me check my phone. Let me move around bed. Let me get up and get a glass of water. A tip that I found that works the most in this type of case is don't move. Keep your eyes closed and try to fall back asleep. Most likely after 20, 30 minutes, you're likely to fall asleep. It's that overactive brain that's like, oh, I'm awake now. Let me think about my next day, or oh God, I'm gonna be tired and blah 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 and blah blah. Stop what you're about to do. Close your eyes back. Even if you need to, I wouldn't even suggest counting because that's just your brain working. Just like try to empty your brain and try to go back to sleep. And within most of the time, if you check your phone, that's it. You're not going back to sleep, even if it's checking for the time, right? Try to keep your phone away from your bedside table so that you're not likely to like jump on it. Regardless, I don't think phones should be next to you, but people who do keep it next to them, or if they have a alarm clock or whatever, try to keep it turned away. If the alarm's going to go off, it's going to go off regardless. You don't need to know what time it is. Try to go back to sleep. Yeah, let's talk about hair loss or thinning of hair. That's something that a lot of women exhibit during menopause. We know it because we've spoken about this before that it's a big mineral deficiency. So increasing minerals in your diet, as well as let's go back to rosemary, right? We spoke a lot about rosemary and how it can increase hair growth. What are some other things that you both suggest? I'll let you go, Kava, for hair thinning and hair loss during menopause.
Okay, so I'm actually now trying this the nettle seeds. I've learned the nettle seeds, when you prepare them and you wash your hair, they actually help to rebuild the hair and volume. So I think this is very good. And also silica, we are very deficient. I mean, we're going back to the same, like we are deficient in minerals, and minerals are very important. So I would suggest get I mean, where those minerals? Those minerals are in the herbs in a wholesome state. So I would suggest calcium, but good calcium, the one who made from herbs and not made from artificial stuff. So I would suggest like alfalfa, and then the shaver grass, nettles. Obviously, we go back to the same. And those combinations are absolutely incredible because they really help to send the good minerals into your body. And also, I would suggest drinking water with a Soleil salt solution, which is a infused salt that it in a like you take a chunks of salt and then you add water and you let it sit overnight, and in a couple hours the salt releasing its own minerals, and then you can take a small teaspoon from it and then divide into like 3 or 4 cups and drink it through the day. That helps to bring minerals into your body as well. So I would really look into mineral uptake, and also you can spray those stuff over your hair. And I'm trying different things for myself. I'm playing around. I just made this a blend of rosemary, and I also put the nettles, and then I put silica, and which is a horsetail, right? Horsetail is absolutely incredible. So horsetail, and then I combine them all in like a mixture, and then I spray it over the hair, and I'm trying to see what it does. But basically, feeding and nourishing the area is the one what we need, right? So nourishing. So those herbs are absolutely incredible. And we didn't speak about the calcium, but calcium plays the major role in our menopausal time, because and what's the calcium is, it's not just like we only like to say, oh, it's only calcium. There's many other minerals that are important, that they play important part into hair health, skin health, and all other things. But yes, I found the horsetail is absolutely incredible. The alfalfa is very good, and you can really drink nettle tea, and then also put the nettle tea over your hair. And that's why I add comfrey into my formula in the hormonal form, because comfrey is a blood it's an energizer. It also provides so much minerals because it can rebuild your bones. It's a bone eater. If you see how fast the comfrey can heal the broken bones, so that's the same way. This is a powerful herb that really helps. I don't understand why people they remove this from because of FDA and all other things. They remove this powerful herb, but through the studies, I've learned that this powerful herb will really nourish you and will provide a good hair. And so yeah, so I'm minerals again. Always go back to the important minerals, and minerals for me are playing the major part. Yeah.
Anything to add, Sarah?
Well, well, that was very, very good. I
Oh,
would agree with
also I
that.
thought brushing. Many people don't brush. Then also doing the massages. And
So
also
increasing the
headstands,
circulation, yeah.
creating circulation. Good. Yeah.
I guess the only thing I would add to that is I feel like gut health is important here, as your metabolic, processes shift to more menopausal stuff, and your endocrine system shifts, that you could have shifts in gut microbiome, or the little bugs that live in your gut that help us so much. And I would be supporting gut health with obviously, good food and a good probiotic or fermented foods. But I also suggest at least a B12, a methylated B12, or a whole B complex is really important, because that actually will help regrow hair. I mean, that is like really important for hair growth. Biotin is a B vitamin. That's really important for connective tissue and skin and hair health and nail health. So, and there's a lot of other mineral type, like MSM is really popular. I don't particularly
Right.
use that one. I like
What
to keep
about
it whole.
collagen? There's this whole,
Yeah,
Right.
collagen.
trend with
Yeah.
collagen.
Yeah. Collagen is
Yeah.
nice. You can put it in your coffee. You can make bone soup. You can make your own collagen. That's really nice for skin, hair, nails. Sure, that's really great. So there's a lot of different, but you get to the root cause is really just this, it depends on what it is, but a lot of times it could be thyroid health. But stress, control the stress response, and you can really reduce these menopausal symptoms, and including obviously hair loss.
Right.
But I love the hair rinse, or this like a spray idea that women can apply, either in the shower, leave it in, then wash your hair, or spray it on before you go to bed and let it just sit on your skin the whole night, And it's not like a drenching thing. You're getting into the scalp, right? Or you could do scalp treatments. I just love that idea, just to stimulate the hair growth here. And then obviously doing it internally with mineral and B vitamin support, and eating good food and getting that good microbiome diverse and healthy, because these shifts in our lives, everything's shifting. It's not just hormones and the manifestation of these hormone shifts. It's like there's some gut microbiome shifts going on too. So really
Yeah.
supporting that whole process.
Okay, I love that. Let's quickly, I don't even, it's not the most appropriate topic, but whatever, we're getting down to it. But uncomfortable sex, lack of sex drive, vaginal dryness, that's a huge symptom of menopause in women or even early signs of menopause. And it just causes for more, irritability as well in a woman's life. So, what are some of your suggestion? Are there herbal remedies that can help with that, Sarah?
Oh yeah.
I'd
Um,
love to hear it.
well, for vaginal dryness, you could do a topical, which is fine, but really I use wild yam and milky oat tops, so oat tops.
Hmm.
And you can do oat tops, you can just do like a quart of tea a day and you'll get
Hmm.
your groove back. It just you will. It's amazing if you take it, on a daily basis. Sometimes you can pulse it in, which seems to work really well for some people. So take it for 2 days and then stop, and then take it for like 2 days and then, stop again with like a 3 or 4 day gap. Or you can take it for 2 days in the week, I find that not only does it reduce vaginal dryness, but it helps libido really well. So just that one herb, and then you can put, the wild yam in there is really nice for that. But there's also another Ayurvedic herb that I use called shatavari, and that
Hmm.
one is really nice for the vaginal dryness and for the libido. So, but there's a lot of herbs for libido. I mean, and as far as a topical, I have a vaginal healing cream which has like a sea buckthorn and the comfrey and calendula. And then you can also use natural lubricants, which is totally, I mean, just an olive oil base, which is totally fine. If you want to go that route, that's a really nice way to do it. I have those things on the shelf as well for women. Um, and then I have also a wild yam cream that you can use daily. And that will help give you the hormones and help with any vaginal thinning or dryness as well. So there's a lot of options, and you don't
Yeah.
have to buy the expensive progesterone cream you get from your doctor, which is super expensive. I mean, $300 or something for a tube of this stuff. It's
When you
insanity.
could be using olive oil or, like you said, the, yarrow.
Yarrow or comfrey or calendula, and like the vaginal cream I make, all of any of them is like 2 ounces is like 13, $14. It's like don't spend
This
so
is
much.
something that you can buy on your site.
Yeah, I have let me think. I don't have everything on my website. So if I'm mentioning products, I don't always have them there because I so what happens is I'll be like, "Oh, like right now I just thought of something I'm going to make." And right before
Right.
I left work today, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to make this." And
Yeah.
so I'm not going to make it and then put it on my website right away. So there's a lot of like gap between what I offer in store, but they could certainly reach out if it's not on there. I don't think the vaginal cream is on there.
So I'd love to mention again both of your websites, sarahsherbs.com and havawellness.com. You can reach out to both of our healers, set up a consultation, purchase some of these things. If they're not listed on their website, you can always phone them and it can be arranged to be purchased and delivered, right? That's what I'm
Oh yeah.
understanding.
Yeah.
Consultations over the phone. We encourage our listeners to get in touch with you both because some questions may rise if you're not watching us live or aren't part of our iPad program and you don't have the option of asking questions. We're here for you. So we'd love to hear from our fans. You can also email them and they'll get your questions answered. Yeah, I really enjoyed today's topic. I feel like we've covered a lot in the women's health, 3 series saga. It was great. I want to mention that our next topic of discussion is menopause, right? So women go through all sorts of hormonal changes from puberty, fertility, and menopause. Now we're definitely going to be discussing men. We want to get them in there. So we'll be discussing menopause, our next podcast. I just wanted to give everybody a little heads up. Thank you again for joining us at Heal Yourself Naturally. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Bye.